Hi, and welcome to Untethered with Jen Liss, the podcast that's here to help you break free, be you, and unleash your inner brilliance. I'm your host, Jen, and in this episode, we're going to talk about how to know if you are tethered and what to do about it. Let's go. Hey there, unicorn. It's Jen. Welcome back to the podcast for this Thursday thread. It's a Thursday thread. By the way, if you ever want to submit, if you don't want to hear me sing that particular jingle for the Thursday thread, you can submit a Thursday thread jingle anytime. Send me a quick little short clip on Facebook Messenger, Instagram. You can send it to me via email, hello@jenliss.com, with your own little recording of Thursday thread. You can sing it whatever way you want to sing it, and I will play it right here on the podcast. In fact, we have a user submission today. I had already recorded this episode, but this morning in my email, someone dropped in a Thursday thread jingle that is perfect for Halloween.
Thursday thread, it's a Thursday thread.
Thank you so much to Ryan Swigert for submitting this Thursday thread jingle. It makes me so happy every time a user submits a little jingle for us to play here on the podcast. Happy Halloween to you, Ryan, and to everyone who is listening. And before we get into this week's Thursday thread, I also want to let you know about a really cool thing that is happening right here on this podcast and on my Instagram over the next month, starting on November 1st. Technically starting on October 31st, because we're starting it with a Tuesday episode next week. We are going to be talking about the brilliance of breath work all month long. I am super passionate personally about elevating the people who are doing some really amazing work with this healing modality, not just myself, but other practitioners all around the world who are supporting people, helping people, all of the different ways that this is really being used around the world in all of these different ways, highlighting those people who are doing the work. We've got people who are nurses. We have people who work in trauma, a neuroscientist, one of my own mentors, some of my friends, and some new people who I've never met, just inviting everybody to elevate some voices who are going to be speaking about breathwork, teaching us how to use it in really practical ways, teaching us all of the ways that we could be using it in our everyday lives, and also to deal with really deep things like trauma. So tune in all month long in the month of November. Go follow me at Untethered Jen on Instagram. I'm going to be going live with tons and tons of really cool people, and then featuring some of them right here on the podcast. So look forward to that in November. Now let's get back to the episode. In this Thursday thread, we are pulling a little thread from the episode with Dawn Calvinisti. So what Dawn came onto the podcast to talk about on Tuesday is what she calls the 3 Ps: people pleasing, procrastination, and perfectionism. And I know that so many people can definitely associate themselves with these words. We experience them time and time and time again. But one of the interesting things that Dawn brought up is that all of these things can be really tied to our tethering. In fact, they can be things that are signals of the fact that you might be significantly tethered and you might not actually even know who the heck you are. This was something that Dawn realized on her journey that she pointed out, was that she came to a point where she realized, I don't even actually know what it is that I care about. What do I care about? She had just layers and layers and layers of masks and trying to be the person that everybody else wanted her to be, trying to be the perfect person. And so many of us struggle with this, right? We get to a point in life where we realize, some people sooner than others, some of us, it's like around 35, 40, 45, 50, where we finally start to realize this. Fortunately, some people realize it kind of more in their early 20s, but a lot of us, it's really later in life where we just wake up and we might notice a pattern. Like hers was a pattern with her relationships, with her second husband. She realized something that I am having experience right now feels familiar. For me, it was with my job. where I was like, something feels really familiar here and not so good. I'm here stuck in a job that I'm not loving again, that I used to love. What's going on here? And I realized that I was actually wrapping tethers around my job and putting all kinds of things around the job instead of addressing it right here at home. And that happens with so many of us. One of the really interesting things that happens is that usually it's one facet of our life where we start to notice that there's something weird. It could be relationships. It could be your job. It could be all kinds of things where you just notice that there's some kind of pattern. There's something that feels uncomfortable. Whatever that thing is, well, you're probably not acting in coherence, not acting in alignment and in truth and in integrity for yourself in whatever that situation is. Usually if something feels uncomfortable, I mean, that is just a sign that you probably are doing one of these 3 P's. You're probably pleasing other people. It's all of the shoulds that we think that we need to be doing in our lives that so often are the things that are causing us strife. And when we just bend over backwards, right? Like so many of us are just bending over backwards for other people, contorting ourselves in all kinds of positions and becoming like, it's like this monster. Like we wake up and we're like, who even is this person who's living in my body? I don't even know who the real person is. It's a really wild experience. It's almost like a little bit of an out of body experience when you have this. If you've ever had this, you might know what I'm talking about. But that is what I mean when I say you're tethered. There's like all of these things, like you've just like woven this web and you're like in the middle of it and you're like, what, how did I even get here? How did this entire web get woven? And every time that you move something or you shift something, the entire web is moving with you. And you're like, what the heck? Oh my gosh. You feel like you can't make any decisions that make anybody happy. You're not even making yourself happy. Like nothing is working, right? It's like all of a sudden this like beautiful thing that I thought that I was creating in life is like, I don't even know what it is anymore. Now, some of the signs that you might have that help bring you kind of to this realization, little areas that you can look to, is that you might be worrying a lot, like a whole lot about other people. You might, rather than worrying about yourself, you're worrying so much about other human beings. And that can come down to worrying about what other people think, what other people will think about what you do, what other people are doing in general, maybe even just worrying about their behavior and how that might affect something else, worrying about things that like really aren't even directly affecting yourself. It can be a sign that you're really caught up in potentially some people pleasing, potentially some codependency. Like that is just a signal that you are not possibly really connected with yourself and being true to you and doing behaviors that are in coherence with you. Like, what do you want in this scenario? Rather than what everybody else wants and what everybody else is out there getting for themselves. Well, what do you want in this scenario? Whether it's you choosing to go out to dinner and worrying about what people are going to think about the place that you're going, how the restaurant is going to look when you get there, and all of the things that people might be thinking about the way that the restaurant looks when you get there, thinking about all those things. Well, is it the restaurant that you desire to go to? Do you like that place? Is that the kind of food that you personally enjoy? Have you even stopped to ask yourself that question? You're so worried about what other people want, desire, need, think, and not giving a single thought to what we think. Because truly, when we're in coherence with ourselves, everyone else falls into so much more coherence with themselves, and they get to choose whether they go to the restaurant with you or not. That's the real untethering, when we get okay with being okay with other people's decisions to join something that we are putting together or to not join something that we are putting together. Because if they don't join, we have to realize that that is no indication of you. That is simply their aligned choice. And that is much easier to see, to understand, to feel, to be okay with when you yourself are making decisions that are aligned with yourself. Because when you start to do it for you, when somebody else starts to do it for themselves, you're not offended. You're just like, good for you, making a decision that is aligned for you. That's amazing. That's awesome. Good. Another sign that you might be tethered is that you're procrastinating. This is something that Dawn talked about. You're procrastinating or you're putting things off. So one of the things that she talked about that I think is so important to point out with procrastination is that sometimes you're procrastinating on something because it's not in alignment for you. It's not even an aligned activity, action, behavior. You don't want to do it. That's okay. If you don't want to do it, it's a great thing to sit down and ask yourself, is this something that I desire to do? Does this feel good for me? Do I like planning dinners out with friends and family? Or am I doing it because I think I should? Am I doing it because I think it makes other people happy? When we start to get down to these nitty gritty questions of asking ourselves, what do I enjoy? And note, procrastination is a signal. So procrastination is often a result of some kind of fear that's coming up. Now that fear could be the fear of what people are going to think when you offer this presentation out into the world, how it's going to be received. Say you're working on a presentation for work and the actual fear that you don't realize that you might be having is the judgment that you might be feeling from others when they receive it. And so sometimes there's a little bit of working through. This is what coaching and therapy is so good for, is just identifying those things. Helping us. Breath work can deeply support you in working through some of those sensations and feelings, fearful feelings that might be coming up. So procrastination, look at it as a signal. It's either pointing you to something that you're afraid of. It's pointing you to something that you don't even want. Or it's pointing you to something that you really, really, really want. And so maybe you might be trying to make it a little bit perfect because you want it so much. And you can also work through some of those thoughts and feelings too, if that exists, by just allowing yourself to feel that thing that you really desire and that you really want. Feel it in your body. That can be a beautiful way to get through procrastination with something that you're trying to make too perfect. Allowing yourself to just be like, what's it going to feel like when I achieve that thing? It's going to feel so good. And if you're not sure if you really want to achieve that thing, allowing yourself to feel into it. If you're like, oh, I actually don't even care about that at all. When we simply pause to allow ourselves to notice, it's so dang powerful. Another signal that you might be a little bit tethered is that you're asking everyone else for advice, everyone else for their thoughts about something, and nothing helps you gain clarity. Nothing. Absolutely nothing is helping you gain clarity. That's because you're not clear with what you want. You're not clear with what is aligned for you. So if you find yourself out there seeking the thoughts of others, asking other people, what do you think I should do next? Well, what do you think about the colors for my brand? Oh, what do you think should be the title that I put on my business card? Well, what do you think? When we're asking other people and we feel like their answers aren't satisfying, we're not feeling satisfied, it's because the answer is already there with you. Just get quiet and allow yourself to listen to it. Ask yourself the advice that you've been asking to everyone else. What color do I feel like is right for my brand? What is the title that I want to give myself that just feels really sound and good to me? What is a word that describes the way that I desire to feel? When you're looking at titling things, ending with that desired feeling is so powerful. We could get into that kind of like creative creation, but always start with the end in mind. The end feeling, the end feeling. That is an amazing way to untether. What is that end ultimate feeling that you desire? And we can think about that in any of these scenarios that we've talked about to this point. Going to a restaurant with friends, what is that feeling that you really desire? And allowing that to guide you through your decisions, it's so powerful. And yet, I totally understand and have so much compassion if you're like, I don't even know. I don't know what I want. I don't know I don't even know how to ask myself these questions. It's normal. Know that this is completely normal to feel that level of disconnection from yourself because, like Dawn said in Tuesday's episode, you've been masking for so long. You've been wearing all of these different outfits to try to please everybody else. You've just been layering and layering and layering and becoming everything to everybody and nothing at all to yourself. And it takes time. It takes time. And that's okay. We cannot rush the unraveling. We cannot rush the untethering. While there are things that can help you get there faster in some ways, such as breath work. It's so powerful. It's why I teach it, because it can help you really come back into these sensations in your body. And sometimes you're not ready for that. That can also take a little bit of time, and it's okay. It's okay if you're not ready for embodiment work yet. If you're like, this just feels like too much, because there's this thing that we talk about in breath work called titration. Little tiny sips, one little sip at a time, allowing everything to open up in perfect timing and moving on your journey in that perfect timing. If you move too fast, you'll re-traumatize. You'll re-traumatize something. You'll trigger something beyond your capacity currently to hold it. So allow yourself to take your time with this. There's no rush, because this is the journey. You're on the journey. You're in it. You're living it. You're allowing it to unfold. And the more we can let it happen in the timing that it is supposed to happen, the better. And I also hold compassion for that part of you that's like, I want to rush it. My mom will tell you this, from the time I came out of the womb, I burst forth from the womb so fast that the doctor caught me by my head, and my aunt was like at the bed screaming. I've never been a patient human being. So I have compassion for anyone who feels like they have no patience and also wants things to be perfect. I understand. I get it. And it's part of our journey to learn to allow the universe to unfold our journey one little beautiful, amazing step at a time, and to be as present with it as possible. Because when you become present, you are untethered. There is no tethering in the present moment. There's nothing to be tethered. All you have is this moment right now. When you go into the past and when you go into the future, that's where we get all wrapped up in all kinds of things. But when we can be in the perfect, beautiful now, we can just allow every step to unfold exactly as it does, while still loosely holding a vision for what we desire, while still understanding that end state that we're getting to. This is where we become just so ourselves, fully aligned to ourselves in every moment by moment. You are you. Moment by moment, you are being the person who you are. And that is an amazing thing. You are exactly as untethered as you are meant to be right now. And in the next moment, you can choose to do something different that helps you to untether one little thread more at a time. And just allowing that to happen exactly as it is supposed to is so much of the journey. So much of the journey. And we can look back at things and say, oh my gosh, I wish I had known. And at the same time, if you had known sooner, there's experiences that you never would have had, right? Everything was leading up to this moment and to the next moment and to the next. And so it's this trust and acceptance that we're constantly learning to lean into. And that ultimately will guide you to feeling so much more fulfilled on every step of the journey. So keep untethering, beautiful. You are doing so amazing. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. And just trust that that is true for you today, tomorrow, and every day. For today's breath practice, inviting that sense of trust in the unfolding into your mind's eye, believing that everything is happening for you exactly as it should, and leaning into the trust in yourself, in the sensations in your body, and in the wisdom that is guiding you in every moment. Taking a deep breath into the nose and out through the mouth. A couple more of those breaths into the nose, out through the mouth. Last one, full, complete inhale, full and complete exhale. Just settling into your natural breath and letting yourself feel your feet on the floor, becoming present with your fingertips. Maybe they're resting in your lap, on your desk, on your chair. Bringing back that halo breath into the nose and out through the mouth. Beginning to rotate that breath at the pace that feels good to you today. Inviting trust in your breath, that your breath is giving your body exactly what it needs in every moment. Allowing yourself to feel into the trust in the unfolding. The confidence that you are coming home to yourself bit by bit, breath by breath. Taking a few more of those breaths into the nose, out through the mouth. Reminding yourself that you are untethering at your perfect pace. Taking one last deep inhale, full and complete exhale. Allowing your awareness to land back into your feet. Maybe wiggling your toes, wiggling your fingertips, bringing yourself back fully into the present, to the here and the now. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. It means the world to me that you would take the time to listen. I know you're a busy human being who could be doing so many other things. If you enjoyed this episode and gained something from it or from the breath practice, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend. You can also take a little screenshot of the episode, add it to your stories on social media, tag me. If you tag me on Instagram, I'm untetheredjen. I will always reshare your post. Thank you again so much for listening. You just keep shining your magical unicorn light out there for all to see. I'll see you next time. Bye.